Hey, what is up guys, Kolst here. So we got some really big news today with this patch that, as of me recording this video and releasing this video, is coming out today. The news is that we have some big news impacting Arena specifically, really impacting every mode in the game currently, but yeah, we're just going to talk primarily about all the changes that impact Arena as normal, so let's just get right into it. So I won't bury the lead here. Let's talk about the biggest change impacting Arena right now, which is the update listed here, which is that ramming mount will no longer be offered in Arena. Obviously a huge change. This has been a card that, I've been seeing complaints about this card even on the main Hearthstone Reddit. That's how you know a lot of people care about this stuff. And that's the same way that caused, previous cards like Runaway Blackwing to get banned as well. So that seems to have some weight. But anyway, if you're not aware of what Ramming Mount was, it's this card. It basically gives a minion immune while attacking, and even if you get through that thing, it summons another card which also has immune. It was just a very, very toxic thing, something that a lot of people are very, very happy to see removed from the game. Again, talking about like another card which is removed. The one thing you might know, like, you've probably seen a Runaway Blackwing in Arena as well. Even though it's banned, it's undraftable, but, we're going to end up presumably in the same situation where, Runaway Blackwing can still be generated. If you get a Dragon Discover or a random 9-drop or something, you can still get a Runaway Blackwing. And the thing is that with Ramming Mount now, unless they change it, we will have the same situation. So discovering a spell is the main way, obviously, you're going to get a ramming mount. And there are actually a fair number of ways to discover spells now. So just to list a few, there's the Bloodscalp Strategist, there's the Fire Tree Witch Doctor. You have to have a dragon, that's pretty hard to pull off, but much easier one to pull off. The ways that you will see it a lot more. Pandora and Importer, a spell that didn't start in your deck. Well, you don't have any ramming mounts in your deck anymore, so you can always get mount off of this. So it curves right into mount, by the way, just, convenient stuff. Venomous Scorpid as well, and Volpera Scoundrel. So these are, cards you're seeing quite a lot of. So unfortunately, just trying to warn everyone, like, unless they change it, we will still be seeing a fair number of ramming mounts in Arena, unfortunately. So honestly, this might be the time. If Blizzard's listening, maybe this will be the time to potentially change this. We'll see how we'll see how the community reception is, and maybe more noise will be created. But we'll have to see about that. Let's move on to the second part of this, which says we discovered a bug with some card offering rates. Well, it's actually me who brought it up to Ixar in one of his AMAs, and we have this thread down here. But that's fine. But anyway, so what essentially that was, if you're not aware, there was a bug that was mainly affecting epics. It's not exactly clear exactly. It seemed to have something to do with the micro adjusts. They tended to, but the point is that cards like Clowns and Rabbit and Primordial Protector, despite being epics, were appearing way more commonly than they're supposed to. Also, Puzzle Box. There's a lot of things like that. So essentially, the offering rates weren't what they're supposed to be. And what's interesting about this post here is that they essentially blame, the current state of balance. How, Druid is like, this is the lowest I think maybe any class has ever been, and even Warrior's really bad too. They essentially are blaming the poor balance here actually on this bug. So it's not clear if they're actually going to do separate micro adjustments, or if they think that really just fixing the epic bug here is going to, fix everything. So we'll have to see. So there may be a micro adjust, and also if there's more detail about this bug, I believe I made a video about it, so I'll probably link it up here, something like that. But yeah, so those are the two biggest things for Arena. And from this from now, I guess we'll just talk about, there are basically a whole bunch of balance changes to a bunch of cards. So we'll talk about the ones that are not battlegrounds. I might go down the list of battlegrounds, but mainly we'll talk about the ones that are most impactful in Arena here. So first we'll talk about these cards that, first they talk about a list of nerfs. So one of these I actually think for Arena is not a nerf, but we will get to that pretty soon. But the first one is definitely a nerf. This is Irebound Brute. This was actually a pretty good card in Demon Hunter, because at worst it was a 6-mana 6/7 taunt, which is totally fine. It has demon synergy and stuff, but now it's a 7-mana 6/7 taunt. You don't obviously have the synergy that you would have in Constructed, so this definitely makes this card significantly worse for Arena. Demon Hunter is really lacking good late game options too, so this is gonna hurt Demon Hunter a little bit actually. Typically, you know, since they do separate balance adjustments, offering rate changes, these nerfs don't really affect the class that much typically, but I do think, because this was one of the good late game cards again in Demon Hunter, this will hurt a little bit actually. A little bit more than a normal change would. So Brood is going to be, you know, much less pickable. Not completely unpickable, but pretty, you know, it's not what it was anymore basically. Now let's move on to the next one, which is the one that I actually think is a very interesting change for Arena, which is to Mind Render Illucia. So this thing got basically the Warsong commander treatment. Like, I think most people in Constructive are already saying this card is dead. There could still be a use in control mirrors, I think, for this card, but just as a value generation option, but it's you're not going to see nearly as much of it constructed. But in Arena though, Mind Render Illucia was actually already, it was a terrible card in Arena, to be really blunt. The problem was like it just didn't really do anything. The combo disruption, there's no combos really in Arena, not typically, so it didn't really do anything. And any attempt you would use to try to gain value with it, you know, your opponent would get your cards and they would steal your value, so it was completely counterproductive. But now we have, with Illucia's new effect, which I should mention, replace your hand with a copy of your opponent's until end of turn. This is actually a really good effect in Arena. So there's a few things. Again, like you don't swap the hand so they can't steal your stuff, but you get to see everything in their hand. This is a 3-mana 1/3. And I mean, you can essentially compare this to Secret Passage, right? Instead of, you know, 1 mana, get 4 cards out of your deck, you just get to see everything in your opponent's hand. And, you know, knowing exactly what board clears your opponent has or doesn't have is really good. And also, you know, like Secret Passage, you get these temporary cards, and if you play this on turn 10 or something, you know, you get 7 more mana crystals to play as many cards as you can afford. You get like maybe 2, 3, even 4 card draws essentially out of this. Honestly, I think you're going to actually see a lot more of this card in Arena. I almost never saw anyone actually play Illucia in Arena. It's also, it doesn't help that it's not in rotation right now. I believe it's in Skullman's Academy, but you know, once this card does come back, you're going to see actually, I think, a lot more of this card in Arena. Because I think it's actually significantly better now. And with that, let's move on to some more nerfs. This one is Perpetual Flame from 1 mana to 2 mana. This is pretty significant as well. Perpetual Flame wasn't actually doing super well in the stats, but this is going to hurt it. Because a lot of the times when, at least for me, because I tend to play more aggressively, I would just use this thing basically as a lightning bolt, you know, just remove 1 minion a lot of the time. Now, it just makes this card a lot more expensive. It's not really, paying 3 mana to do that is a little more than you want to. And it just generally makes the card less efficient. It was already really expensive if you ever used it for actually, like, you know, killing like 4 or 5 things. All that overload was painful in Arena. It still does what it did, so it's not unpickable probably. So I won't talk about the quest lines too much, but you know, they're making these quests generally a little harder to complete. You have to play another overload card. Again, these aren't in Arena, so just glaze over them, but just more damage you have to take here. And the last one, this card is in Arena, but again, wasn't a card you saw very much, was Ruined Mithril Rod. They're just making it 4 mana. I've seen some people play with this card in Arena, but, you know, typically since you don't have, you know, the synergy like Backfire and other card draw, it was really hard to make work. And now it's going to be even harder to make work, so you'll probably see even less of these than you already did. And if you're curious, there is a little side note here that, of course, you will get the full dust refund for all these nerfed cards. And with that, let's move on to the buffed cards. So the first one here is Leatherworking Kit. Not a card you would see too often in Arena. Honestly, most of the time you would see it is when you randomly got it off of like Hunter's Pack or something. But I did draft it a couple times, and you know, if you have a lot of beasts already, this card was really good. And now the fact that you can play it on turn 1 makes it significantly better. You know, it still has the same downside. One of the biggest issues was you can't always, unless you have like certain cards that synergize with it, you couldn't always get your beasts to die super quickly to get the value out of this thing, and it eats up the weapon slot, and that was, you know, that weakness is still going to be there. So if you have this equipped, you can't use a Desert Spear or whatever, right? So that downside will still be there. I actually don't think this will affect how you value this card in the draft too much, but of course, you know, it does make it a bit better. Moving on to the next one, which is Selective Breeder, getting buffed from a 2-mana 1/1 to a 2-mana 1/3. Battlecry, discover a copy of a beast in your deck. That doesn't change. So they're just giving it 2 more health. Going from a 1/1 to a 1/3 is actually pretty significant, you know, just means it doesn't get eaten by something like a 2-mana 2/3, right? You know, just like Pandaren and Porter, same stat line. So a 1/3, this is a pretty significant buff. This is a card I almost never picked because really it just wasn't, you wouldn't have the right synergy most of the time. So it wasn't really worth it before, but this definitely makes it significantly better, especially if you have, you know, certain high value beasts, something like a Pitrock or a Venomous Scorpid, things you actually want. Venomous Scorpid especially, because you can curve right into this. The ability to get a, you know, a 2 that discovers a 3 like that is actually really good. So, you know, this definitely makes this card significantly better. I think you'll be seeing a lot more of this in Arena. And one more card that we'll probably be seeing quite a bit more of as well is Wildfire. So this is a card that, the big problem with Wildfire, some people would try to make it work. The thing is like paying 2 mana for this, especially early on, is just too expensive. So this is another case where, you know, increasing the fact that you get to play it on turn 1 potentially, or if you draw it later, you still get to squeeze it in for just 1 less mana, really does make this card quite a bit better. I don't think it's going to be a premium card, and it is an epic, so you're going to see it less because epics are going to have their appropriate offering right now. But yeah, this definitely does make the card again significantly better. So we'll probably be seeing, I think people like this kind of card, so you will be seeing a lot more of Wildfire potentially. A little less because it's an epic, so but we'll have to see. The last one, Mordresh. If you do happen to get a Wildfire, suddenly Mordresh is really good. Mordresh being changes from a 10 mana 10/10 to an 8 mana 8/8 that still does 10 damage AoE if you can pull it off. And I believe the last group of buffs here, there were 3 warrior cards I believe that are all being buffed. Again, usually this isn't the method of really changing balance in Arena. This is all for constructed to try to make, looks like Pirate Warrior better. All 3 of the cards they're buffing here were actually pretty good already. Some of them were some of the best cards in the class, so these are pretty significant buffs as well. So Stormwind Freebooter going from a 3 mana 3/3 Battlecry, give your hero +2 attack, to a 3 mana 3/4 with the same effect. So this makes this card from very good to just unfair, to be honest. So I mean, this is crazy good. It was already very good, now it's just crazy good. Stonewall Anchorman as well. I believe I looked in the stats and this was like the 10th highest win rate card in the entire class outside of legendaries. So now they're just giving it an extra health, which just makes it, you know, that much more likely. Sometimes you had to run this into a 5 attack minion because you just didn't have a choice, right? And in that case, you get the draw and the minion to survive that you wouldn't have gotten. So this probably makes this, now this is probably a top 5 card in the class. Honestly, it's probably not the biggest difference most of the time, but you know, every once in a while it's a huge difference. And then the last one getting buffed is Bloodsail Deckhand, going from a 1 mana 2/1 that if you have a weapon essentially makes it a 0 mana 2/1. Now it's a 1 mana 2/2, which is almost like a 0 mana 2/2. Like this is probably, I was thinking probably the 3rd best 1-drop that's ever been in Arena. I think the only ones better are Imprisoned Gnarg and Battle Fiend, the Demon Hunter, before it was nerfed, when it was a 2/2 as well. After those, this is probably the best 1-drop that's ever been in Arena, so, you know, this will be very valuable all of a sudden. A 2/2 is just so much better than a 2/1 just because it doesn't get pinged off, right? But yeah, that's it for the Arena changes. I'll just go ahead and scroll through the Battlegrounds changes and the Duels changes really quickly. Basically, there's just a whole bunch of rebalancing. They've adjusted, you know, turn timer. They nerfed the Shutterwalk hero power, so you actually have to spend mana on it. They nerfed Gale Wing, so it's just the upgrade you still have to pay for after 5 turns instead of just getting it for free. Doomsayer getting nerfed, and generally I won't go over all these individually, but they're just tweaking a whole bunch of, you know, the rating, the tier of a lot of these minions, and nerfing leapfroggers, less leapers in chat apparently, making it so Macaw can't trigger itself. Just a whole bunch of other tweaks to a bunch of these cards. I know I don't have too many avid Battlegrounds players, but we'll just scroll through these, I guess. It's just a whole bunch of little stat tweaks for the most part for a lot of these. Wilbur is getting buffed, I see. That's interesting. Charlie gets to buff himself, but yeah, that's it. And then talk about the duels as well. They've removed a couple treasures. Void Touch Attendant is now banned from deck creation. Okay, that's interesting. That's the 1-mana 1/3, right? The priest card, I believe. The one that makes it so, I mean, heroes take more damage. Yeah, and another tweak to treasures as well. Yeah, there are also some bug fixes in this patch. There was nothing that stood out to me in as far as Arena is concerned, so... Again, just to recap, so there were a fair number of standard and wild changes that will affect cards in Arena, at least when they're in rotation, but the biggest news again being that Ramming Mount is no longer draftable in Arena, although it is still discoverable, so you're still going to see Ramming Mount somewhat often if the bunch of hunters are still running around. We'll see if there are balance changes additionally applied that possibly change the class balance. We'll have to wait and see for that. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, of course, don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button. If you dislike the video, make sure to dislike the video. And if you want to leave a comment, go ahead and do that, because comments help the algorithm and all that stuff. But yeah, the one mode, of course, which we didn't talk about in these patch notes is Mercenaries. I will be playing some Mercenaries, so I will definitely be trying it on day 1, which I believe is coming out in about 3 weeks at this point. So if you have any ideas for anything, I will probably start making a few Mercenary videos. We'll see how much I play it, you know, after I try it. We'll see how much I like it, and, you know, I'm definitely not gonna like fully switch from like Arena to Mercenaries or anything. Don't worry about that. But if there's any topics you guys want to hear about for Mercenaries, because I could do some kind of a general review of basically everything I've learned. Unfortunately, you know, I saw that there were some creators that, you know, that Blizzard gave some early access to, so there are some videos running around of people actually playing like the actual gameplay now through a tutorial in the early part of the game. Unfortunately, I don't get to be on that list, but you know, maybe someday, right? I could do some kind of recap. Just let me know what you guys would want to see there, if there's anything you want to see. But yeah, anyway, I guess that's it. Thanks a lot for hanging out again. If you want to check me out on Twitch, go ahead and do that, and we'll be playing some more Arena for the time being until Mercenaries comes out, and then after, of course, as well, but we'll be playing some Mercenaries too. But yeah, thanks a lot again. We'll see you guys next time.